But the difference, looking even supplies list, we even sat with a just supplies list across the school. And so it was one of our goals to get more uniformity across all of our schools. So at a parent, if they do move and all of a sudden say, why am I paying this at one school and one at the other? So we felt it was very important as transparency too, to our families to make sure we were standardized across the division.
Thank you. I really appreciate that at the division level because all our schools are equal and our parents should know that. So thank you for doing that.
Trustee Buga.
If this schedule is going to be public facing, I would just ask, as I said earlier, just to include academies in other fees so that when people look at this document, they know that that's set by individual schools and posted to their website annually, so they know where to find it as well.
We needed a friendly amendment. Help. Because that's not written. Mind you,
do we as the board have input into the academy fees? Like, is that something that we would normally approve? Then we don't need a motion.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Otway-McClay, would you like to speak to this one again, or are you?
I'm content, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. That the Board of Trustees approve the 2023-2024 fee schedule as presented in the AP 464 fees Exhibit 1, 2023-2024 fee schedule at the August 23, 2023 public board meeting. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, moving on to policy or 10.5 policy 230. I have to apologize and I thank my fellow trustees for the last minute from what we learned on the Monday at our PD and the discussion that followed that. I say we, our admin worked on this policy for us. Would someone be willing to put the motion forward? Trustee Murray Elliott.
Trish Murray Elliott, Ward 4. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the revised Board Policy 230, Board Committees, and adopting Policy 231, Student Advisory Committee, as an appendix to Policy 230, with recommended changes as presented at the August 23rd to 2023 Public Board meeting.
Did you have any questions or would like to speak to the motion?
Yes. This is happening very quickly and I'm not great with change, so I'm quite anxious. However, I think the rationale is as presented in the background, the little bits of discussion that we have had on this, it makes sense. I think it's great that we're all involved in all of the committees, and I think it will give us all a better place to be as a board to know what's going on everywhere. And so I'm almost ready to go ahead with change.
Thank you. Trustee Pequin.
So I'm not ready for this to come forward yet. I would like to see it weighted. I would like to see policy committee stay as a standalone so we can go through the 3 readings and then it come to the committee of the whole for everybody to go through it. But I don't know that we need the committee of the whole to go through the 3 readings of that. I worry about advocacy not being a standalone. I'm not really sure why I worry about that yet, but I do. I'm okay with the audit and finance, human resources, building and maintenance, and transportation going into the CAL. But I would like a deeper dive into those 2 to see if they're more effective as standalones and as part of the committee of the whole, or so I just would like some more work done before we approve this. Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Dwyer?
I'm kind of in the same place. This happened really quickly and, I like the concept. I just don't know what I'm missing here. I'm not sure. So.
Okay. Trustee Briggs?
I actually thought about this quite long and hard. We had a lot of information. I'm willing to move forward and try this. I can't see any harm if we're all involved and are hearing the same information. So I'm for the change. I think it could turn out to be quite a positive change for our board.
Trustee Bugo?
Sorry, I am for the change, but I'm not sure that I'm seeing, am I seeing a clean copy? It says attachments are clean copy, track changes, and the original, and I'm not sure what I'm looking at. Sorry.
The track changes are in the email.
Okay,
This is the clean copy.
copy. Can I ask for a moment just to read it more thoroughly as it just got walked in earlier? Is that acceptable?
That is totally acceptable. Trustee O'Way-McClay?
So fundamentally, I feel that this is a positive change. However, I also haven't read through all of it and it's quite lengthy. I'm wondering, is this something that must be voted on today? Because if not, I would like to table the motion to the next public board meeting and have some time to read it, digest it, have some conversation. So can I put that out there now, or I would like to table this to next public board meeting.
I'm gonna ask, I don't know how you say it. Are we all in favor for tabling this motion to the next public board meeting? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. We will table this to September's board meeting. Thank you very much. Oh,
That means you have no committee of the whole at all. Just so
Oh.
you know.
trustee Murray Elliott?
Yeah, so follow-up question, how does this affect our committee of the whole? And because I would like us to prepare and have an in-depth discussion prior to our next public board meeting.
Trustee Dwyer?
I don't think this is a problem. I think that, at our next committee of the whole, that could be one of the topics. And then the only in question was the vote. That was it. So yeah, it can be talked about our next committee of the whole. We could schedule a committee of the whole and talk about this and then vote on it at our next public meeting.
Trustee O'Way-McClay?
And this is why I voted against our schedule. I would like to propose that committee of the whole happen prior to the public board meeting in the morning. And then roll into public board meeting in the afternoon. However, there was no good time to talk about that, so I don't even see a problem with having a conversation about it prior to the next public board meeting the same day of, but that's just me.
Well, and I think my understanding, and I ask my fellow trustees to correct me if I'm wrong, we just resort to what the original is, and that our cow is not public and will be held the second Wednesday, which is September 13th, Superintendent Warren.
Sorry, I'm just going to remind the board that at this time, you are starting the new school year and new organization meeting. There is nothing about committee of the whole. At this time, you have no motion on the floor about committee of the whole at all. So you would need to move on and have another motion about what you want committee of the whole, because at this time, there are no committee of the wholes for the 23-24 school year because it was not in the organizational.
Trustee Pequit.
So do we want to put a motion on the floor that we have our next committee of the whole at September 13th at 2:00 to further get our stuff together?
Is that your motion?
Yep.
Okay. And
Is that,
question, any support that? Oh, Superintendent Warren?
I'm just gonna ask that we pause.
Yeah,
Because
take
you have a motion on
recess.
the floor. So it has to be, you have to vote on in and out and defeat it and move on. And so you have to read the motion. And yes, and I would also suggest maybe the board has lunch to let you, our brain. And sorry, I'm just gonna say this out loud. This was the process of public board meeting that we pause, you look, this is your meeting. But just remember that there is a motion on the floor.
But we motioned to table this to the next public. We have to vote on this motion then? Okay. This policy 230 motion, because it was on the floor, then it was asked to be tabled. Trustee Buga?
Thank you. I know that this is getting muddy. But yes, I do believe we need to vote on that first motion, and if that is not our intent, is that able to come back? Because I believe that you cannot put the same motion on the table again. So I would just like to pause for a moment and suggest that we do have our retreat booked for this afternoon where we work on work plans for each of our committees that no longer exist on their own. So perhaps that is a time that we could use to hammer that out this afternoon. And can we remove a motion from the table without it being voted on?
I believe the person that put the motion forward is able to withdraw. But I'm not sure.
That motion, then pausing motion no longer needed to be voted on, it will come back.
That's.
I just want to comment, Tasha's absolutely right. So this is simple, really. This,
Voted on table.
yeah.
Do we have
exactly
till the
right.
end of the next meeting?
Next public.
Public.
Yeah, so you're okay.
Even though we didn't set up committee of the whole or anything like that in our organizational meeting.
We can discuss it further.
This is
Okay,
Yes.
we're done with this and we can have further discussion at our retreat.
So actually.
We voted.
Yeah.
Voted already.
Yeah.
6-1.
Thank you, because I did not catch.
Then yes. Discussions we do the whole for a retreat. The retreat is first. So
We'll just not call it committee of the whole. We'll call it the work meeting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can I
Okay.
say something? So us talking about this at our work meeting goes against what we're doing in the public boardroom. It should be visual. That is why we're having our public board meeting. Why are we going to another meeting to talk about this?
Trustee Otway McLean.
As long as we don't speak directly to the motion, we can, the board, decide how we want to operate our committee of the whole going forward. That doesn't need to be a public conversation, although I would assume that at some point we will have that conversation in public. But just the operations piece of a committee of the whole doesn't need to be discussed in public. At the moment, our committee of the whole meetings are not public. So a conversation about said committee of the whole doesn't need to be either.
I think this is getting very muddy. And I request a recess.
Chair, I'm just requesting, I'm looking at our recording secretary and I want to make sure that we are accurate to this point. So my understanding is that the motion for policy 230 has been tabled to next public board meeting. It was tabled by trustee Otway McClay. And the vote was 6-1 with trustee Briggs voting against. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we've been asked to recess. All in favor of a recess. So motion carried. We will recess for lunch and resume our public board meeting after lunch. Is that right? Okay, thank you. It was a lovely little break we had. Okay. I just want to circle back 10.5 just to find out, to get my head, where are we? Trustee Otway McLean.
To my knowledge, 10.5 has been tabled to the next public board meeting. And there was, where it ended was, do we have conversation now or later? I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Bugle.
Thank you. I think this is a valuable conversation because this is where our work is going to be getting done for the next year. I would like to see this conversation happen at a public board meeting, whether I would prefer to do it right now so that we can begin our work and create our work plans going forward with our committee work. If not, I would like to see it in a public forum when we have the discussion and not behind closed doors.
Steve Briggs.
I would have to agree with Trustee Buga. This has to be open and transparent. I don't think we can wait another month to talk about this. That means we've lost 1 month without a committee. I think we need to talk about this and decide which direction we are heading. We've been given 3 recommendations on why this is a good idea. If we don't think it's a good idea 2 or 3 months from now, I'm sure we could revisit it at that time. But I do think we need to talk.
Trustee Marie Elliott.
Would we be open to having brief discussions on some of the points such as Janine mentioned of having the odd policy standalone?
Trustee Otway McLean.
I'm open to that. I'm gonna put my concerns on the table right now, and you guys like them, you don't, that's okay, but I'm saying them. Committee work and committee of the whole work is not meant to be public board meeting topics. It is work done by the committee of the whole or subcommittees of committee of the whole. And so therefore, I think that in order to avoid what had happened previously in the past, where discussion was had at the committee of the whole regarding public board meeting agenda items, and our commitment to stopping that, I think we need to have the committee of the whole directly prior to the public board meeting, because no issues coming into the committee of the whole prior to that board meeting will be agenda items. It won't even be a preview of the agenda. There should be no discussion at committee of the whole regarding anything else related to the public board meeting. And so what I would like to see our committee of the whole happen immediately prior to the public board meeting. I would like all of our committees to be incorporated in committee of the whole, and I can certainly appreciate that that may lead to some need or desire to rework it in the future, but I think it should start at that point. And then we will have a brief in-camera session prior to public board if required, public board in the afternoon, and if required, again after that, a short, very pointed closed session to discuss any of the land, legal, labor issues. Thanks.
Trustee Marie Elliott.
I question how you're going to fit a committee of the whole meeting, including every subcommittee topic, into the same day as a public board meeting. And also, our previous committee meetings were public in that minutes were taken and shared. They weren't really, and so if we're looking at committee of the whole as a public meeting, does that mean it has to be recorded? I don't see a problem with minutes being taken. Just a couple things that are popping into my mind.
I'm getting the sense maybe we should sit in this and let's talk about it today. So, because we wouldn't be able to do anything going forward other than what, ATA, QP, ASBA, PSBA. So how about 15 minutes? Is that enough to reread with the track changes, and then we can discuss a little bit more? Do you need a printed copy of the track changes? No, it's in the email, so he doesn't have his. Here. Oh.
Just Joe Wire, Ward 3. I'm really good with this document. The only question I had, and I think it's been brought up, is that it's policy and advocacy right in this concept. The whole other concept of this is really good. And I agree with it. It's just there's a couple there that I have a question. So I just wanted everybody to know where I'm standing with this.
Trustee Bega?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. If we're okay to just kind of rediscuss, or did you
Sure.
want to pause? Are we good?
Does
Pre-discussion's good.
anybody need a little extra time to read the track changes? Okay, discuss.
Then in that case, I think that's one of the sticking points is just the timing that is set forth in this. We may want to discuss just based on our schedules and how long of a day we want to see on that public board day. This was the recommendation from administration, so perhaps they could speak to why they would like to see it separated by 2 weeks. Perhaps so that we can prepare better for voting at public board meetings. I know that with policy, that was often a concern of making sure that we had prep time. And I do think we would have, with this format, I really like it as well. But I think that we would have to make the assumption that there will be extra policy meetings. There will be cause for maybe some ad hoc kind of stuff going on specific to those, but I don't see that that would be an issue if we're only meeting in that format.
Superintendent Warren?
And sure, since the one that did this, I will let you know what the thinking was. So if you actually look at their, so first of all, as was discussed on Monday, so taking that feedback back, what the proposal here is that your committee of the whole, your agenda items, because you would have it, the purpose for going for a full day, the 2 Wednesdays before the public board meeting. The reason we put it as public is just like you, Trustee Murray Elliott, discussed. It was on. Trustee Murray Elliott spoke to is that the notes, when you had your committees before, you want to have those notes because you want to report on it. So that's the reason for it being public. Does not mean it have to be recorded public as in someone could come in. As noted, because that's how we also looked at your work plans, that the committee of the whole, that you would have the 6 topics: building and maintenance, transportation, policy, advocacy, audit, finance, and human resources. It's in the email that I sent you. Number 6 is governance, your trustee handbook review, and board meeting procedures review. So if those were standing items, just like you had your committee meetings, what I did take from some of your feedback from what you spoke about on Monday was, even in policy, even in building and maintenance, transportation, there are times that there were conversations happening with the committee that actually would be valuable that all of your voices, you are a corporate entity, that you were all there. By moving committee of the whole to a whole day, that doesn't that lets you know ahead of time. You have 2 Wednesdays a month where you basically, it could be 9 o'clock till 3:30. It's long days, but it doesn't handcuff you to a specific time. As a board, in the board retreat on Monday, if that is the way that you want to go to truly dig into your policies, to learn them, they are yours, and to try to get them down so that they actually are your role of governance. Administration's recommendation is you're all there for those discussions because it's very important. And the notes would be taken. For audit, finance, and human resources, now that we actually have an audit committee where we have 2 external people, when it gets to budget, you could schedule it for Wade at 9 a.m. So those external people would be here and then they could go, but the whole board would be here, could change it up. So it's not that any of your committees are going away, you're bringing them and you're validating yourself as a team. So that is what we brought forward. Any of the track changes on the committees, it's very minor because now they're going to be collapsed and part of CAL is what it is. Your committee as the whole are those committees. That's what they are. And your professional development, which is the governance piece, as I put in the email. So that was the reasoning. The reasoning for suggesting it starts at 9 in the morning is just like for your board meetings, to give you time to actually sit and have wholesome discussions as a whole team, as you go through your items. And the work plan that you would create this afternoon, you would look at what you created last year and decide as a team, what are your priorities by each area? That was the whole purpose. And the other piece was when you talk about policy and advocacy, we have new trustees on this board. I know that you just did a policy rewrite 5 years ago now. But if you're actually going to learn the policies and actually know them as yourselves, it would be important that everybody was here. And the second piece for advocacy, as you read the letter from Danielle Smith to Minister Nicolaides, literally mandating ministers to do cross-ministerial work. That's heavy lifting, and that would require you all to be here if you're to discuss together legal, all of that, a school site legal, that takes us as a team. So that's the reasoning. So it's not that there's big changes. It's a big change to time because Cal before was at 2 o'clock. It was to give you the whole day and to have you all here. So that was the reasoning behind it. That's how we put everything together. And the reason it would be public is so that it, again, will audit committee, you have 2 externals, and also so that there's notes, so there's reports back. So it's in the public domain when you get to public board.
Sue Peckler. Can we add potentially enclosed with committee in the whole, an ASBA and a PSBAA section so that if there is the budget presentations, the position statements, we have built in the time then with that cow to have those fulsome discussions because we don't have the time built in right now. So as that stands, I'm okay with it. I would like to add those 2 as standing agenda items. And if there's nothing for the month, there's nothing, but if they're there, then we can have those fulsome discussions and we've built in the time for that.
And they definitely could, we could go in camera. That we can go in camera at any time. So.
Just if it's needed to go on camera because it's not public, not to hide.
Yeah, well, if you're doing resolution discussion, that needs to be in camera. Trustee Buga?
Just for clarification, because again, I've only been here for 2 years. We did it one way 1 year and a different way the second year. With it being an open meeting, and it does say a quorum of 4, are we able to pass motions during committee of the whole, or are we keeping, or is that not a thing? I know we used to vote during committee of the whole, but I'm not sure.
No. You can't, yeah. Superintendent Warren.
It would be recommendations that would come forward. So just the same thing as you were doing like on your policy committee, et cetera. Recommendations come to the public board, so you wouldn't be making decisions, and it is there.
We just need to be able to have those great discussions that we were having, but open. Trustee Otway McClay.
I'm lost in my documents here. So the proposal is committee of the whole for an entire day on the second Wednesday of the month from 9 till 4. And then a public board meeting from 9 till 4 on the fourth Wednesday of the month.
Not, it just your starting time. So it's just the starting time at 9 AM. So again, the time depends, start o'clock, 9 o'clock. But I want to just confirm, as trustee Murray had asked, it's 2 weeks prior to the date of the public board. And as noted, because when we looked at the calendar, because we had some conflicts over the past year, taking your feedback, it's not always the second Wednesday. So that is a change. It's 2 Wednesdays prior to the public board meeting.
Okay, so my concern, as always, is that some of us have other jobs to attend. And if we're taking an entire day away, but it's not ending until, or it ends, let's say we go 9 till noon for the committee of the whole. Like, I would much rather start at noon and go to 4. Just so that I could dedicate half a day to the other job. I also, currently the way it stands is on the second Wednesday of the month, we have committee of the whole from 2 till 4. Then we have the board meeting on the 4th, and we go from 9 till noon. And then previously, what we had done last year was have all of our committee meetings in the afternoon, or as many as was reasonably possible to have. So now we're saying that both the committee of the whole and the public board meeting are going to take twice as long as they did previously. And I don't actually see that that's going to happen, because not all committees meet every month. Simply as a function of what's happening. And like, I honestly don't see it's going to take 2 8-hour days. But if you're saying it's 2 8-hour days, I'm taking that time off of work to attend. So I just want us to all really consider if that's what is happening.
Trustee Marie Elliott.
I think in answer to that, Tasha, as you said previously on our board days, we had the committee meetings added in. But if we're doing the committee meetings on cow day, there won't be committee meetings on board days. So I can't see us having 2 8-hour days. So perhaps board day will be a half a day sometimes. And maybe the whole day might be a longer day than it has been in the past.
Trustee Pequin.
I think building in the 2 8-hour days is not bad, because I don't know how many times we said, we're running out of time. We can't complete this. We can't. I mean, we do get an honorarium per month. 2 8-hour days for that honorarium, I don't think is unreasonable, especially if we're putting those committee days. And then we know that those 2 Wednesdays a month, so we have time to have those discussions, so we can have fulsome discussions or emergent items that are coming up or that come out of discussions. So we're not, oh, well, we said 4, so I've scheduled something, and I have scheduled something for 4:35 and been the first to be out the door. So I think building in those 2 8-hour days builds in that time to have good work done, good discussions had. So I'm for that.
Trustee Briggs, you're awfully quiet. Would you like to,
I'm taking it all in, Chair Gibbons. I feel your pain, Tasha. I do, because you're being pulled in 2 directions and you want them to make the most of your time wherever you are. On a positive note, I am looking forward, if we do move forward with this, that we are all inclusive, like I said, getting the same information on the same committees.
Trustee Otway McClay.
If this ends up being the will of the board, then obviously I'm going to support the will of the board. However, I'm very close to begging the powers that be to be respectful of the fact that 2 days are being consumed already and to not book additional items, meetings, or events that require board attendance in the mornings.
Trustee Buga.
This probably isn't adding a lot to the conversation, but just kind of where my head's at so that we all can understand each other. I agree. I think that that would be a key point, is that, you know, not 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock meetings here and there and extras if can be avoided. But I know that, as you know, I've probably attended 99% of every single committee meeting because I felt that I was missing out if I wasn't there. And I don't think all of the information, I guess that was my curiosity versus studiousness. Maybe I didn't need all of the information, but I don't feel like everything was portrayed fully at the public board. So I really valued being in attendance. So I think that this change will get everybody in the same conversations and not just hearing the point form at the end, because it really doesn't always capture what went on behind the scenes. So I look forward to that. And I think that there will be days that will be shorter, certainly, because as we heard, a lot of what we're hearing from building and maintenance and transportation are not necessarily things that we needed to know in the first place. And we dig pretty deep. And I think we needed to rebuild the trust from what I saw on the board and with the administration. And I hope that we've kind of created that trust now, and maybe we don't need so much time to discuss. So I would support this. I like it, but yeah, being respectful that, yeah, we do have lives, and this is something that we wanted to do. We've been elected to do this job, but at the same time, it can't pay it can't pay all the bills. So as long as that is kept in mind, which I think our administration is quite respectful of that.
Trustee Murray Elliott.
Thank you to everyone for all your points. They're all very well taken. And so I have two questions about what the new format of the proposed committee of the whole might look like. The first one being, am I hearing that we would not go over the agenda for the upcoming board meeting? So, you know, that would, if that's the case, that would remove a big part of the discussion from that meeting. And the second question is, would it still be appropriate, because I found this very valuable, that in the committee of the whole meeting, we could take time to discuss upcoming events, who's going to what, and make sure everything's being addressed. I think that's okay to have that in a public meeting.
Trustee Briggs.
So we could essentially start the cow at 1 o'clock, so you could work a half a day, and everybody else. Like, there's nothing set in stone that we have to start at 9.
It was just in response to what Shauna said regarding all of the pieces of content. And again, I'm okay with the 9 o'clock. I'm okay with the full day, but I want to meet for a reason. If there's reason to meet from 9 until 3, whatever, I am totally on board with that. But I think that we are going to find that a lot of the information that we were receiving in different committees and in our committee of the whole meetings, I'm going to say, I bet you we're going to see it cut in half, because lots of it wasn't meant to be there. So that is also going to shorten the time of the meetings. So we can certainly start it one way, as long as there is an agreement or a will to reassess and make changes if necessary. We gotta start somewhere. We gotta give it a try. And I'm okay with that part. Yeah.
And I agree with you, and I believe trustee Briggs had said that, you know, we try it. And if it doesn't work or we need to tweak it, then we bring it back at a public meeting with what will work, but at least we've got a place to start. I also think too, it'll allow us to do a little bit more in the advocacy world, in that we can do a deep dive into the ministerial letters that were like, how does that impact us as governors for education? What cross-ministerial work is going to look like under the education minister and things like that. So we can have those discussions. And I agree with trustee Otway McClay in that time is valuable, and we need to respect each other's time, and including our senior admin's time as well. And we also need to be able to provide them with the time to be able to bring us the information that we want at the public board meeting as well. Is there any further discussion? Trustee Buga?
Just a question, I suppose. I know that in previous Robert's Rules things, if a motion is tabled, it can be brought back up in the same meeting. Thank you.
Trustee Otway McClay?
I think if the board is satisfied with the conversation, I'd be willing to withdraw my motion to table. Or to bring it back to the floor. Make a motion to bring it back to the floor. If everybody is satisfied with the level of discussion.
Okay.
So the board will need to make a motion to remove the tabled item, which is policy, I believe, 230. Then moving forward, a motion would have to be represented to vote on the item.
Trustee Otway McClay?
I will withdraw my motion to table policy 230 to the next public board meeting.
Okay, so I'm going to call the question that the motion on the floor is to withdraw tabling policy 230 to the next public board meeting. That's what her motion was, to remove it from the table. All in favor? Unanimous. Is someone willing to put forward a motion on policy 230? Trustee Buga. 230, yes it is.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the revised Board Policy 230, Board Committees, and adopting Policy 231, Student Advisory Committee as an appendix to Policy 230, with recommended changes as presented at the August 23, 2023 Public Board Meeting.
Any questions, or you want to speak to your motion?
I would just say that I think that we have had a robust conversation and look forward to doing some meaningful work as a team on all of these committees.
Does anybody have any questions or discussion on the motion? Trustee Otway McClay?
Does the motion on the table as it sits encompass the discussion we just had? Like now I'm really I'm sorry, but confused, looking for,
Superintendent Warren.
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing, oh. Trustee Murray Elliott.
So just to clarify, it's my understanding that we will start both committee, because I don't know if this is the right time to make that decision, but both the committee of the whole meetings and the public board meetings at 9 a.m. And if that length of day is not required, as we find in the future, we can amend those times. I am wondering if that is accurate.
Yes, the board can revisit any of its policies at any time.
Okay, I'm going to call the question that the Board of Trustees approve the revised Board Policy 230, Board Committees, and adopting Policy 231, Student Advisory Committee as an appendix to Policy 230, with recommended changes as presented at the August 23, 2023 Public Board meeting. All in favor? All, that'd be unanimous. Okay, thank you. We have no unfinished business. No notice of motion. I haven't heard that there's any information. I don't have anybody from ATA or CUPE or community members or the media. No requests for information. Can I have a motion to move in camera? Trustee Otway McClay. All in favor? Unanimous.